In this lesson, we are going to define our first own object-defined class in Java. The class I'm defining is the tLine class, and it is described in your textbook starting on page 65. The class we are going to define will not be executable or runnable. It will be a class that is referred to by a runnable class or an executable class. So we are going to create an object definition class. We will start by putting our class in a separate file from our application or our executable class. Within the OOP package, I'm going to create my class, and let's call it the line class. I do not want a main method here because that would be my application. So do not tick this block, and let's finish. And the beginnings of our first class have been created for us. Let's give this class two fields, an fSize field for the size of the line I want to draw, and fPattern for the type of line, in other words, which character must be used in order to draw this line. And here you can see that we've created an fSize variable, it's of type integer, and an fPattern variable or field, and it's of type char. And both of these have the access modifier called private. And access modifier refers to how we access the field inside our line class. We do not want this field to be accessed from any class outside the line class, so we've created it as private. Remember, that is the access modifier for these fields. Once we've created the fields, we need accessor and mutator methods in order to change their values. Because they are now private, they can't be accessed from the outside. So the first one to do is, let's start with public, because these need to be accessible from the outside. Public set fSize. So this is the first setter method or mutator method for the fSize variable. Notice that Eclipse complains, and when I hold my mouse over this point over here, then it says the return type for the method is missing, because set fSize does not return any value. It is a void method. I think it merely changes the field value of fSize. And of course it needs some form of parameter. Let's give it a parameter called int fs, and inside our method we say that fSize is equal to fs. In the same way, let's create the setter or mutator method for fPattern. Once again, fPattern is a method. It needs to be public, and it is void because it does not return anything to the outside world. It merely uses its inputs and changes the value of fPattern, the private field in this class. The next two methods that are missing are the accessor methods that would make the values or the contents of fSize and fPattern available to the outside world. These would not be void methods because they would be returning some sort of value. Public int get fSize, so this method returns a value of type integer to the outside world. Eclipse is complaining. Let's see what about. The method must return a result of that type, and now we have that. Return the field value fSize through the get fSize method, and that of course is an integer. And now let's write the get method for fPattern, and there we've done it. So our object defined class at this stage consists of two fields that we've created and four methods: getters and setters, or accessor and mutator methods. The set methods are always the mutator methods, and the get methods are always the accessor methods. The last thing that an object-defined class needs is a constructor. A constructor is easy to create. There are some rules to follow. It has to be public, of course, and its name is the same as the name of the class, line. And there we've created a default constructor. This constructor will be used to create new objects of the line class in our application program that calls this, in the same way that we created new hojas when we used the hoja class. It is a good idea to use your line class to assign initial values to each of these fields. I've given fSize a value of 2 and fPattern a value of the asterisk because it is a character. At this stage Eclipse seems to be happy. There are no issues on the left hand side, and our class consists of 2 fields, a constructor method, and 4 getters and setters, or accessor and mutator methods. It's time to write the application. The application will be a new class. It will be in the OOP package. Let's create a new class there, and we call it the useLine class, and this one must make use of public static void because it is an application. Once again, Eclipse has written the first part of the code for us, and because this is our application class, the first thing I want to do is create an object of our line class. So let's use the constructor line, and the name of this new object, let's call it myLine, equals new line and a semicolon. So this line calls the constructor which instantiates a new object of type line called myLine. In other words, now memory space has been reserved for this object in RAM. Do the fields in myLine, which would be fpattern and fsize, have any values yet? Yes, they do, because the default constructor in the line class, you can see, assigns the values of 2 and the asterisk to them. So let's check if this is true by immediately printing them and using the get methods. System.out.println. Let's print the fsize field in the line class and specifically belonging to myLine. So myLine.fsize and system.out.println myLine.fpattern. Eclipse is complaining. Let's have a look why. It says that the field line.fsize is not visible, and that's of course true because we made fsize private. So we need to use the get method here, and of course we need the same here. We need the get fpattern method. And suddenly Eclipse seems to be happy. Let's run this and see whether it produces the result. And you can see that we have 2 and the asterisk printed down here. We've not used the set methods yet. Let's do that now and change the values of these fields. myLine.setPattern, and let's make the pattern value an ampersand, and let's use myLine.setFsize, and let's make that 10, and of course print them out again. Let's just copy those 2 lines, copy and paste them and run our program. And you can see initially we have the value 2 and asterisk printed, and subsequently the value 10 and ampersand. So let's summarize. What have we done? We've created an object definition class, the line class, and the way we defined this object was we gave it 2 fields, a constructor method and accessor and mutator methods. The line class does nothing at the moment. It merely is an object with 2 fields and those methods. The useLine class has made use of this object by creating or instantiating a new object called myLine of this type line. And we just tested in this case whether our accessor and mutator methods worked, and they seem to be fine.